Welcome to rePROs Fight Back, a podcast where we explore all things reproductive health, rights, and justice. I'm your host, Jenny Wetter, and I'll be helping you stay informed around issues like birth control, abortion, sex education, and LGBTQ issues, and much, much more. Giving you the tools you need to take action and fight back. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, rePROs. How's everybody doing? I'm your host, Jenny Wetter, and my pronouns are she, her. Y'all, I cannot believe this is our 150th episode. What? Yeah, I can't believe we've done 150 of these. It feels like, in some ways, like we just started doing the podcast, and I cannot believe we've almost been going for 5 years. It just is unreal. I cannot believe we've done 150 episodes. Like, so many times, like, if you had asked me when we started doing this, if I thought we would be going 150 episodes and 4.5 years later, like, I would probably be like, no, like, that is wild. And it is. Like, it's unreal. So thank you all for listening or reading our transcripts or being involved with the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. I really appreciate Meg, who does all of our editing and makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about and sound good. I really appreciate it. And for Rachel, who has done so much work on the podcast from day one. Both Meg and Rachel have worked on the podcast since day one. And Rachel has done so much, like all of the lovely graphics you all see online and all of our social media and the website. Like, that is all Rachel. She has done all of those things and makes us look amazing. So super, super grateful for her and all of her amazing work. So Meg, Rachel, thank you so much. Huge, huge thank you to all of you. I really appreciate it. And it's just so great that y'all keep coming back to listen to the podcast or read the transcripts or however you take it in. I just am very grateful to all of you. Let's see here. I am getting super excited for fall. It just came on all of a sudden, and I don't know if it's because it's finally gotten nicer here. I mean, it's still like 80, but it's nice enough that like I can have my windows open. It's getting a little cooler at night. It's just lovely. It's just making me happy and think of like soup season and like thinking of all the wonderful soups I'm going to make this fall, or the stews, or maybe like I was also looking this morning at like a recipe for lasagna. So thinking of like all of those kind of things, thinking of the baked goods I'll make, thinking of like, pumpkin recipes. I bought donut pans for like baked donuts. So I'm going to have to try out making maybe some either pumpkin donuts or apple cider donuts. Oh, just so many things. I'm so excited. It just, y'all, when I say it just hit me, I mean like 5 minutes ago. Like all of a sudden I was just like, I'm ready for it to be fall and I am super excited. So this is why you have me just gushing and thinking of like spooky season. I am here for it. I am ready for the new Hocus Pocus when it comes out. I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited I've got a bunch of spooky season books to read between now and Halloween. So many like witches and haunted houses and so many like creepy, spooky books. Y'all, I am all in on fall and spooky season. I cannot wait. And, the scariest thing happening is the loss of our rights. I know that was kind of a cheesy transition, y'all, but I didn't have a good one. So I'm super excited to talk about everything that is going on. So we talk about the state of abortion access right now. We talk about Lindsey Graham's new proposed national abortion ban. And I am so excited to have the always amazing Erin Matson at rePROaction on to talk about all of these things with me. I am just so grateful that she was able to do it, and we had a wonderful conversation. So I hope you all enjoy my conversation with Erin. Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, Jenny. Great to be back. I'm rePROs by back.
Before we get started, maybe let's just do a quick, do you want to introduce yourself and include your pronouns?
Absolutely. So I'm Erin Matson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am co-founder and executive director of reproaction, which leads bold action to increase access to abortion and advance reproductive justice.
I'm so excited to have you on for many reasons, but you always have such a great voice on all of these issues, and it seemed fitting to have you on sometime like after the fall of Dobbs to just kind of talk about all the things. But now we're almost like 3 months, which is somehow hard to believe it's only been 3 months. And also I can't wrap my head around the fact that it's like mid-September at the same time. What does everything look like right now?
Oh, I mean,
for abortion access.
Yeah, the overturn of Roe has been an unmitigated disaster for public health and gender equality and social justice in this country. And every day, it seems another state falls on the precipice of no longer offering in-clinic access to care. We expect that more states will fall soon and that in pretty short order, it'll be a half of the country or more that doesn't offer in-clinic access to abortion any longer. So it's devastating. And I want to be very clear about this. It doesn't mean that folks in states where abortion is legal are not impacted. In fact, what you have is patients flooding in from other states. Abortion has become very much a regional issue. And so wait times are just astronomically long, pushing people and forcing them to get care later in their pregnancies in some cases, and also increasing the expense associated with that, the travel needs. Another piece that I want to say is, I came initially to this fight as a gender equality person, and I was in the women's rights movement. And very quickly, it became clear to me that abortion needed more and more of my attention. And I will just say that, I came into this from that lens, like I'm working on abortion. I think now that abortion access and reproductive justice advocates are on the front lines of just fighting for democracy and individual freedoms in our country, period. And I'm going to qualify that statement. So we've had model legislation released by the National Right to Life Committee that actually bans freedom of speech. They would make it illegal to share information about abortion pills and how they work on a website. That, by the way, is work that reproaction does. So not just talking to people, but publishing information. So I think that's another piece. The abortion opponents are showing their true colors, and they are willing to stop at nothing. And it really is in service of a broader totalitarian, anti-small d democratic agenda.
Yeah, this has also been on my seeming never-ending list of topics to talk about. Is something I've definitely seen you talk about multiple times, is the connections between the pro-life movement, and that's heavy air quotes, with the white supremacist movement. And we won't do a full deep dive into it because it definitely deserves its own episode. But I definitely think, maybe just a little bit, because I think that's something that people are still maybe grappling with in a way that they don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you highlighting that. And there's 3 things that are very much interconnected in the push to ban all abortion and to control pregnancy and control reproduction and sex for anyone on the basis of what body they were born into. The first concept is this is really about white supremacy. And so let's put this in plain English. This is the same issue as concern about population rates dropping. And it's a specific population. This is about, abortion bans are about, we want more white babies. That is what they want. I want to be very crystal clear about that. And you see that sometimes in opposition strategic plans and other conversations that they have amongst themselves and online, where they talk about, quote, a European style demographic winter, unquote. Let me tell you exactly what that is. That is about white babies. So they want to control the population in that. The second piece, so that's white supremacy. The second piece is gender roles, and specifically enforcing gender roles. There's a very specific idea about womanhood and what our role as women is in society. And it is about taking away freedoms that we have so that we, again, birth more babies. And then third is reproductive oppression. And that more broadly is about the state oppressing on the basis of reproduction. And so what you see there is people not only not having access to abortion care, but also struggling, for example, to get access to fertility treatment, where people are charged with crimes for behavior during pregnancy that is otherwise not charged. So, like someone not wearing a seatbelt while they're driving, other pieces like that. So that falls most heavily, again, it's all interconnected with white supremacy and gender roles, but white supremacy especially, that falls most heavily on women of color. Thank you for that. That's kind of the broader thing of what we're up against here and what all this anti-abortion stuff is about. TLDR, they want more white babies.
Yeah, I just feel like that's such a big part that you see talked about more broadly, more and more recently, which I really appreciate. But I think if you're not like steeped in the movement, you might see it, but not understand the connection. So I'm really glad to take a step back and talk about that. And we'll definitely have a full episode that digs into that at some point. Yeah. And I think, we were talking about the challenges of like all the states that have banned abortion since the fall of Roe. And you talked about it being a regional problem, and it's always striking to me is when you look at the map and see you're not just talking about abortion being banned in a state and you have to travel like next door to go get access. Like you're now talking about places where people are going to have to travel great distances to get care, and the cascading effects and like what you touched on, that impacts cost if you're getting abortion later. Like it just is getting so difficult for so many people to access care, and like people who are already marginalized going to be the most impacted. This all just is interrelated.
It's horrifying, and I just want to underscore, like, it was a bright light to see what happened in Kansas and more of that. And I think we'll be talking about that in relation to other current events. But I would say, like, folks should really keep in mind that it's not just about access to abortion in Kansas, that there are so many states that are now depending on Kansas for care. The number of Texans and Oklahomans and others who had been driving into Kansas for care. So, of course, it wasn't even close on that vote. But if it had gone poorly, that would have been devastating, not just for Kansas, but really for the whole Central South region.
Yeah, and I guess that takes us to the big news of when this comes out last week, which is Senator Graham's proposed 15-week national abortion ban, which, I mean, raise your hand if you were surprised to see that coming, but it's scary to like see it being talked about no matter what, because it won't happen right now, but like that doesn't mean it couldn't happen in the near future. And like this would have even more devastating impact just across the country.
Yeah. So this ban is so cruel, and it shows the true intentions. I mean, one may recall that right after Roe was overturned by a stacked Supreme Court that was brought in and installed just to do exactly what it did, the culmination of 50 years of organizing by the right wing in this country. I mean, they were laser focused on that goal. One might recall that there was some gaslighting that was happening. And it was like, oh, this is just returning it to the states or the people. Okay, so can we talk? Because with Lindsey Graham's national ban, so wait a minute, but a state that doesn't ban abortion, he wants to go in and ban it. Okay, got it. That's what's happening. But also, we can also debunk this returning it to the people language. These are the very same, the folks who are supporting that national ban are the exact same folks who were trying to get the Michigan reproductive rights ballot amendment off so that it wouldn't go before the voters. So they're actually terrified of democracy, which brings me to a point that you may not be asking for, but I think it's not discussed enough. So it is real interesting to watch the reaction of electorally minded conservatives to Senator Graham's hateful bill. And you have folks like Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senate Minority Whip John Cornyn, both like essentially extending a 29-foot pole to be like, not really. You'll have to ask him about that. That's not really what our priority is right now. There's good reasoning for that. Polling shows that voters are outraged. You look at what happened in Kansas. That vote happened in Kansas with conservative voters, big time conservative voters, not independent, reliable conservative voters. The overreach that the Supreme Court went through, people are realizing like, holy F, this is not what is compatible with a free country. So you see that, the 19th just came out with a new poll that shows that 70% of voters, and that I want to be very granular about, this is astounding. It's actually 74% of Democratic voters and 70% of Republican voters do not think that politicians have enough information to be legislating abortion. In other words, they don't trust them to legislate abortion. That's 70% of Republican voters in that poll said that. So you see why some electorally minded folks are trying to distance themselves from Senator Graham's hateful ban. But, I've been seeing a lot of news coverage elsewhere where you have like other pollsters who are saying, they basically point to the McConnell cornet in response. And they're like, this is going to moderate itself out because voters aren't going to go for it. The problem is this, Jenny. The problem is that the people behind these bans, they talk about a general electorate. The pollsters who say this and the electorally minded folks who say this are talking about a general electorate. The problem is that the people behind this legislation and this drive don't want there to be a general electorate. Let me say that again. They don't want there to be an electorate because they don't want elections. They do not care. This is part of a surge toward a non-democratic model of government in this country. And so we need to take it very, very, very seriously, even as some attempt to distance themselves from it, as we have seen with January 6th, the mainstream and the apologia for that, the mainstream of the conservative movement is not mounting a sufficient response to fight back against this anti-democracy movement. And so it ties in absolutely with these bans. I mean, I don't think they're going to moderate is the way to sum it up. I don't think they're going to moderate. I think we're going to see these bans continue to come.
At the moment, I'm having so many like flashbacks of the many years of like, don't worry, they're never going to overturn Roe. Like, don't worry, it's never going to happen. They're not coming for birth control. They're not like, don't worry your little head. It'll be fine. And I just feel like this never-ending loop of like, don't worries keep happening. Of like, don't worry, a national ban is never gonna pass. And I feel like I am going bonkers because it just keeps happening. And the same people keep telling us not to worry as the things keep happening.
Yeah. And let's talk about what's going on there, because I can so visualize a person like patting you on the head, sweetie, as you say that. I mean, This is sexist too. It's gaslighting and it's sexist. It's like we're being—
don't worry your little head.
Yes, as these hysterical ladies, when in fact the rights of all people with capacity for pregnancy have just been decimated. And again, it isn't a don't worry. I mean, Justice Clarence Thomas was very clear, like, hey, let's revisit Griswold and the right to contraception. Let's revisit same-sex marriage. I mean, they're going there.
Yeah, and we already saw a little bit of that coming up with this Texas judge who ruled that PrEP, having insurance cover PrEP, was a violation of religious freedoms, which I don't know how I was shocked, because I really shouldn't have been shocked, but like I wasn't ready for it to happen so fast. And again, it just not surprising, but shocking.
Yeah, it is. It's one. There's pieces too. Like I thought I couldn't be shocked by anything as somebody who spends a lot of time working on these issues and also looking at the right wing in this country. And, the one that got me was almost instantly after Roe, I started seeing some of the biggest groups just declare unilaterally that all forms of hormonal birth control are abortion. So the patch, the ring, the pill, like they decided that it was all abortion. And like, that's obviously not scientifically sound, but to connect the dots for folks. So when they're talking about a national abortion ban, they're talking about a national ban on the pill as well.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those, like, I thought they would try to stick with the more incremental approach of, like, it's the IUDs we're talking about or, like, specific ones. I did not expect them to really double down and go all in and just be like, yeah, it's all of it.
Right, right. Me too. I thought, they've been picking on emergency contraception for years, and I thought that would be where they would go. And no, they went all for it. And just as a public service to listeners, I want to be
Yeah.
very clear that emergency contraception is not abortion, and it's not going to give you the abortion you need. And I need to say that very clearly because now that we're in an environment, self-managed abortion with pills is safe and effective and it works. We share the World Health Organization protocol for that on our website, reproaction.org. But there's a lot of disinformation that's been put out there that says that Plan B is an abortion pill, and it's not. In fact, if a person is pregnant and they take Plan B, it's not going to give them the abortion they need, and it's just going to delay their time and access to care. So not the same thing. But yeah, I thought that was going to be where they stuck, and nope, they're just going for it.
So I think the other thing that's been, bothering me for a long time, because language is always tended to skew like news trying to like reiterating right-wing words. So, you see the heartbeat bans, or now the conversation about this 15-week ban being a ban on late abortion or later term abortion. It's really frustrating, and I really would love to hear your thoughts on this, because language is so important, and so important for where people's thoughts are on these things if they're only hearing like the skewed anti-abortion language.
Yeah, we should just not use it. And it's not factual, A. It's not based in science or medicine. This is a manufactured framework that they've instituted for the purpose of banning abortion and restricting all forms of reproductive health care. So it's not helpful language to use, but here's what is helpful. And I think, in talking about, for example, Lindsey Graham's ban is a national abortion ban. That is what it is. It's a national abortion ban. And I want to be clear that the mechanism that it uses for the abortion ban is actually, because it is a 15-week ban. So back last January, our friend Marjorie Dannenfelser, the head of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, said, upholding Mississippi's 15-week ban is overturning Roe. She was preparing for a more mitigated outcome than what Alito did. She was, I think, preparing for what a lot of people had considered the Roberts scenario.
Yeah.
And so let's extend that. So what Lindsey Graham has just proposed is overturning Roe in each individual state in the country. That's what it is. It's a national abortion ban. But I want to talk about values. And I think that's the most important thing, is that we talk about the fact that people have a right to their dignity and autonomy and are in the best position to make decisions for themselves during the course of pregnancy. Throughout the course of pregnancy, there are a variety of reasons why a person may be later along in when they have an abortion. Sometimes it's not something they wanted, and it's already because of the fact that abortion has been banned in so many states, and even in states where it's not banned. We talked about this, like wait times are through the roof. That is delaying access to care. Sometimes people don't know they're pregnant for a good period of time, and that's totally normal. There are people who get their periods like clockwork, and there are people who don't. And so it's not unusual to not be aware. Money is often a huge issue, and one of the biggest barriers of all, that a person may not be able to afford the procedure, get the time taken off of work. They need help with childcare logistics. This always comes back to the people who are living in the most marginalized identities in this country are most hurt by bans. And so that's another compounding factor. Sometimes it is due to things that are just experienced as tragedies by families, where it's very much a wanted pregnancy and the pregnancy is not viable, or there are severe indications in the fetus and there is a parenting. I would like to say this very clearly as a parent myself. Parenting decisions made out of love and care. That is the best thing for them to do. And then sometimes just circumstances change during the course of pregnancy. And so I just want to say there's like all of these different reasons, right? Like, and I can even say this from like a personal perspective. The circumstances that I was born into personally, my mother never would have anticipated in a million years that my biological father would have dropped dead unexpectedly when she was 5 months pregnant. Things just happen. That's just life. And so there's so many reasons. The biggest thing is we don't need to provide reasons. And it's really rooted in sexism and mistrust that we think people need to justify themselves to us over why they don't want to be pregnant at a certain moment in time, or why they can't be pregnant even if they want to be.
Yeah, I think that I definitely was, I've talked about this multiple times on the podcast, growing up in the Catholic Church and like the very like shaming aspect of it. But once you like get out and like my mom was really good about like talking me through the process of like, have you thought about these things? And like when you just think about the people at the center, like their decisions and their reasons are their reasons, and like they have nothing to do with me, they have nothing to do with anything. It's their decision, and they need to be supported in it, and they need to be able to have access to care that is affordable, and like end of story.
Right. And be treated well and with dignity. There was this piece, oh God, there was this horrible piece in the New York Times that was about a woman who had an appointment in Tennessee, I believe it was. And this was a wanted pregnancy that she got some devastating news that her baby was in the signs that she was told incompatible with life and great suffering. So she actually had an appointment booked for one of the days immediately after what became post Dobbs. So she had to travel out of state and was driven by her mother-in-law. And I remember there was just a point in the story where I just started bawling. What got me in it was that they had to drive through some anti-abortion protesters in the state they went to, and the mother-in-law rolled down the window and took the literature and said to her daughter-in-law as she's driving into her, basically expressed her agreement with them. And I was just like, oh my God, like what lack of compassion is this? And the point is not to vilify the person. It's the viewpoint that people who are having abortions are not people at all. That like there's no seeing her humanity in that moment. That someone harassing on the sidewalk has a valid point of view. And just to be getting that incoming from her own family, I just lost it after that huge drive and all she went through.
Yeah, it's always so hard to read so many of these stories and like deal with all of the emotions in them, because that's just one story and there are so many of them happening right now. And like, I just feel like I can get bogged down in that, and like that can just like shut down my capacity to think about all of the people who are struggling to access just basic healthcare right now. But that's what some people need to see to like understand the humanity and the right of being a person, of people making these decisions. But man, every time, like, it just breaks my heart reading all of the stories.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't want to also paint it that like every abortion is sad like that. Like that person was sad.
Yeah.
A lot of people, so just flat out the research shows that the overwhelming majority of women surveyed said that the predominant emotion they felt after their abortion was relief. And they were confident. Furthermore, 94% say it was the right decision. So it's like, for a lot of people, this is not something that's particularly arduous beyond having to navigate state-imposed hurdles and harassment. But it's, abortion can be in the abstract, in the absence of barriers, abortion can be a pretty normal, blasé event for some people. And all responses are okay. Just like anything in life, we have different responses to things. We're people, we're human. That's what we need to respect in one another, our humanity and our dignity to control our own lives.
Okay, so now we're in this horrible mess, which could / probably will get worse. What do we need to do? Like, what needs to happen to make things better? I mean, I'm sure there's like some near-term solutions, and like obviously the big one is to like make abortion legal everywhere and like free and have it covered by Medicaid and insurance and like affordable. But how do we get there?
Yeah. And abortion pills in the vending machines. I mean, like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Free abortion pills, like in the buckets outside the LGBTQ and women's resource centers in college. Like, let's do it all. I would say, in terms of, for folks looking to plug in right now, and there's a lot of interest, the most impactful things that they can do is really to center the needs of the people in their own community. And there's need everywhere, no matter what your state is doing. There's need everywhere. Abortion funds are wonderful resources for support. So abortionfunds.org, there are local organizations in all of the states, and donating money is always often, just the most direct and helpful things. In some cases, folks can volunteer, but I also want to caution that they're deluged and slammed right now. And so, like, if you want to, that actually might be harder right now to do, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not valued. It just means that everyone in this movement is really hurting right now. I'm sure you're hearing that too, Jenny. I mean, it's just like, it's a devastating time, and there's so many complicated things that are happening. So that's one area. Something I always want to advocate is getting real educated on self-managed abortion with pills and how abortion pills work, and sharing the word. So they haven't banned freedom of speech yet in this country. They're working on it, but they haven't. And so one of the most empowering things that people can know is how to use either mifepristone and misoprostol together to safely and effectively end a pregnancy on one's own, or just misoprostol alone. There are a lot of resources out there. rePROaction has them on our website. There are a ton of others as well, and we're proud to be on the steering committee of the Abortion on Our Own Terms campaign of a whole gaggle of organizations across the sector. So that's important. And then do something at the grassroots level, like be visible. At this point, like, even now, I see a lot more people in airports wearing abortion shirts, and I'm like, yes, that's a deliberate strategy, and it's a good one. Make yourself visible and known, whether that's putting a sticker on your car for the first time if you have a car and that's safe for you, whether that's speaking up about your views, whether if you live in Michigan, that means that you're knocking doors, whether that means educating yourself about the candidates and also going and attending town halls or forums and asking questions, whether that means joining up and linking up with local activist efforts. There are a lot of demonstrations and things like that going on. So there are ways to get locally involved in your community. And the important thing is just to keep going.
Yeah, I have cultivated quite the array of abortion t-shirts. So there are a lot of fun ones out there. A lot of different places have them. Definitely check out. I'm wearing one right now. Abortion funds are magic. So yeah, I fully, wholeheartedly endorse all of Erin's suggestions. We will absolutely include links to reproaction's stuff on self-managed abortion. Actually, I think Erin was on the podcast talking about self-managed abortion. We'll make sure to include that episode too, because you're right. It is so important to make sure that people are getting trusted resources to get accurate information about self-managed abortion right now.
Right. Because just because the abortion is illegal in a place doesn't mean that abortion isn't happening. And it doesn't mean that safe abortion can't happen. So
absolutely,
folks should empower themselves with information.
Well, Erin, as always, it was a real joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, y'all, I hope you enjoyed my talk with Erin. I had a great time talking to her, so I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And as always, if you have any questions or a topic you would like for us to cover, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email at Jennie, JENNIE, at reprosfightback.com. Or you can reach out to us on social media. We're at rePROs Fight Back on Facebook and Twitter, or rePROs FB on Instagram. Otherwise, I will see y'all in 2 weeks. Bye! For more information, including show notes from this episode and previous episodes, please visit us at our website at reprosfightback.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at rePROs Fight Back, and on Instagram at rePROs FB. If you like our show, please help others find it by sharing it with your friends, and please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.